Hi, my name is Christy Lindstrom, and I am a working rector just like you. I've been working with students ages 2 from preschool all the way up to high school. I've worked in the US, I've worked in Belgium, and I'm currently working in Sweden in an organization with 6 schools. And I am working to help rectors just like you and me find their way forward, help teachers prepare the learning, and help students learn and do what is best. I wish I could be there with you today, but I had the opportunity to listen to John Hattie and James Nottingham, and I hope to bring that learning with me when we meet in January. I'm looking forward to working with you, and when we meet, let's discuss innovative learning environments. How can we together build environments that meet the needs of every student? The OECD did a report around 2010 to 2013 where they looked at the characteristics of a learning environment and what made it successful, powerful, and effective. And these were the 7 principles that they came up with. I would like to suggest that we read the handbook for learning in innovative learning environments and that we discuss that in January when we meet. In order to be ready, I would ask that you go to this website and actually download, read online, or buy this book. This book is a summary of the different principles that relate to innovative learning environments. You can grab it here. You don't have to read the entire book, although it's not long, but I would like for you to focus on the first pages, the summary and description from each chapter. In the first chapter, you'll learn about the specific principles. What makes an innovative learning environment? How do we equip our teachers to create the room, the space, the methods, the ideas, the planning, the structure, the organization, so that every student can learn? In the second chapter, you'll be able to look at what they call the 7+3 framework. So it's the 7 principles that we're going to talk about. And the 3, that is the culture, the organization, and the communication and leadership within each school, and the role that technology can play. In the third chapter, we'll talk about the leadership specifically. What is needed and how should we be acting and adapting to help develop an innovative learning environment? What should we be thinking about? How should we be observing, looking, and giving feedback to our teachers to empower innovation? And in the last chapter, we'll actually consider maybe not all the learning is and should take place in a traditional classroom. It talks about ecosystems and the idea that learning is not necessarily in a classroom or in a group of 30, but in small groups, in discussions online, here, there, in different environments. What is an environment, and how can we take the ideas and principles of good learning and apply that to what's needed? And finally, how do we prepare our teachers for that? In my school, currently, we have about 300 teachers, and we have teachers who have just finished the teacher training school all the way to teachers at the end of their career. How do we help each of them reach every student? And last but not least, after you've read these pages, I think it's about 30 pages, hopefully you'll find it inspiring. I'd like you to reflect. Reflect upon the first chapter. So the very first section is what we'll prepare ahead of time. The other chapters we'll work with during the conference. I'd like you to think about one concrete example for each principle. And the reason we do this is to understand what each idea means. What does it mean to say learning is social? So think of a concrete example for each principle. Then I'd like you to think about, how do we know what's going on in our schools? How do we know? Where do you see learning? How does learning work? And what data sources do we have to gather it? Let's share some practices and some best practices so that we can help each other do this effectively. And finally, I'd ask you to think about your own school. How far is each of the principles reflected in the plans and visions and goals at your school? So in the intention of your school. and how far is each principle actually achieved. We may have great plans and implementation is on its way, but how far have we really come? And by thinking about each principle separately, I think we can be ready to have a powerful conversation when we meet in January. I have created a document, sort of a spreadsheet that you can fill in, and there you'll see each principle and then a box for you to fill in. This is just an example of one way you could do your reflection. You're welcome to draw pictures, you can use text, you can use anything you want to help you grab and remember the important parts of your reading. I'd ask that you do your reading and your reflection before January 15th and load your document onto the learning platform, and I'll take that feedback to prepare our time together. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone, and I hope that you'll enjoy this handbook and it will provide us with a great foundation for some very inspiring discussion. I'm looking forward to innovating with you in January.